Welcome Pratibha to this particular session, Pratibha. Now, a lot of you are attending these sessions to understand the journey of Pratibha. Just to give you folks who don't know about her, she is a pass out of St. Stephen's College, and she has recently cleared the 2023 22 UPSC and secured rank 623. And I had invited her and a disclaimer, because this entire industry, puri industry mein kya hai. So this is kind of a podcast that we are going to have. It's not going to be a formal kind of a discussion, an informal discussion. So what I wanted to tell the audience, since this is a recorded session, is that in this entire market, there's a lot of miscommunication as well, and I want to clear it right now at the front end. That in no way in her prelims training or in her mains training I have been involved. In fact, she had approached me through a professor of St. Stephen's during her interview phase. So I would not like to take any credit for this is an industry norm to take credit for even for the interviews, but I even wouldn't say I had a role to play even in her interview, except for say a couple of sessions that I took. But she's been generous enough to share her journey with all of us, and especially she scored excellently in the GS papers as well as the ethics and the essay. So this is the first part of the series that we are going to start with, and we'll start off with these disclaimers every time that we are going to have, or we're going to have as and when whatever language that Pratibha is comfortable with, we can have that. And starting with how this journey has been, and what were the ups and downs in this journey. I know there is a bit of a down these days, because something. I mean, we will discuss about that as well. It's a humbling kind of a paper, I would say. One day you are at the top of the game, and the other day it gives you a good humbling that, oh, come back to earth. So we'll talk about all of this, but let's start with Pratibha on her story, and what has prompted her to take up this service, and how has been this particular last few years. Over to you, Pratibha.
And good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible
Yes.
and clear enough. Thank you. Starting off by saying that, sir, you have been very instrumental and very helpful in my journey. It doesn't matter whether it was the first stage or the mains or the last stage. I think as in when you meet good companions and people who help you through in each stage, because each stage has its own importance, and throughout everything has its own importance. So thank you so much for when I approached you, I still was in that midst of whether I will clear or not clear. But you were very kind enough to even take me into sessions, morning sessions, and help me in cultivate a good routine, which is very important in sitting for an exam like this, and of course guiding me through the interview process as well. So yes, addressing. So I think when I speak, I will start off by sharing my journey with you, and then I will go off towards discussing the strategy that I use for these three different stages of the exams: prelims, mains, and the interview. And then probably, if the session allows, we can discuss a couple of questions in answer writing, mains answer writing, and then it can be opened up for the Q&A session. So starting off my journey, well, it goes back a lot of years back when I was very young, and I'd always thought of, I always saw a lot of problems in the society, and I always wondered how it could be resolved, and how I could be at the helm of resolving this. And I always had this bigger vision in mind that you must have honesty in character, and you must have this vision of transforming your society, because when we live in a society, it is our responsibility to rectify the kind of problems we see are in and around us. So I think it was in class 7th in the civics book when I read about the civil services and the permanent bureaucracy, and I was amazed by it. I was like, oh my god, okay, there is something like this, and it sounds interesting. And I wonder, very few people in class 7 reading a civics textbook would be, stargazed by a permanent bureaucracy, but I was. But then I didn't have a clear idea in my mind that I would want to join the civil service. But I had a tendency, and inclining for the social science. So I did my 10th. I took the decision of joining arts, and I studied arts. So I completed my schooling from Army Public School. My father was in the Indian Army, so he was transferred to different places. So I did my schooling throughout India, a lot of places in India. So after that, I got admitted to St. Stephen. I did my BA program and then I moved to JNU to do my masters. And I did my masters in development and labor studies. And after that, I think when I was in my 12th, I had made up my mind that I would. But then when I came to my for my graduation, I was always open to like exploring different opportunities and learning things which are new. So I never restricted that dream of mine to just being that one dream that I want to take. I always was open for learning more and trying out things. So in college in the 3 years, I did not with a plan to study for civil service examination like how a lot of students I think start with their coaching or start with their studies, start with their basic NCERT division. In all the 3 years, I think I did explore a lot of society, especially the social service college, and because I liked doing it, so therefore I went for it. But when I came to do my masters, I realized, oh, maybe I'm old enough, and I have lost a substantial period of my life. And I was seeing that a lot of my batchmates or a lot of people that you see their success stories, that cleared in post attempt right after college. And I was like, I have done my college, but I am zero when it comes to starting my preparation. I had this dream always at the back of my mind, but I never started working for it. Then I started my preparation, I think, with this idea that I'm already behind the race. So I've already started it, and I might not be able to compete for this exam the same way that others are, because I have lost a substantial period of time. And when I look back at that point in time, I feel like I was so naive to think about it. But at that point in time, it seemed very true and it affected a lot. But then gradually, when I started doing my master's, which was again a hectic subject to do, at the same time, I started appearing for multiple exams, which was CDS, because I think once you start preparing for a UPSC, there is a tendency for a lot of people around you to say that, oh, you're sitting for this exam, then you can clear any exam in the world. So you should basically sit for CDS, you should basically sit for FCI and SSC and whatnot. Because if you cannot clear the civil service examination, at least you'll get the lowest hanging fruit. So you should sit for it. And I was like, yeah, maybe, because there was no clarity of mind, I think, no clarity. So therefore, I was like, okay, maybe I should sit for this exam. I'll learn from these exams, and that is how it will help me to pass my civil services exam. So I started giving these exams with that mindset. So I cleared some for in the preliminary stages, and then I could not clear any when it comes to like seeing your name in the final list or in that. So that is how the journey of failures started. Since I was always good in studies, but being good in studies is no metric for being successful or being the most meritorious kid. But I think I still was always curious to learn, and that was a good personality trait in my character. But then when I started facing multiple, I lost that curiosity to learn, and I felt like that thing that you were sitting for multiple exams that was not planned for, that started instilling a fear in me that you cannot even clear the smallest of these exams, then how would you think that you would clear one of the most grueling exams possibly in the world? And then even without a good amount of preparation while doing my masters, I sat for 2 examinations for 2 years. I sat for my 2 attempts. And then the fear of attempts again started affecting that, oh, now you have given first attempt, you have given second attempt, and now for how long would you crack even the first? But then all this was happening without me realizing the fact that you have not been sitting seriously to prepare for this examination, and there is a part of you which has constantly been engaged in sorts of activities and not being concentrated enough to look what the pattern of this exam is, what kind of preparation it demands. So then I was always fearful of taking a gap year, because if taking a gap year is like somehow when you are always into an institution where you are graduating from one stage to another, and then when you think of taking a gap year, you feel like you are all by on your own. And that is a very different kind of experience. If you have not experienced that thing before, if you are on the positive side, you might feel like, oh, you can go anywhere. Basically, for me, and I think for a lot of students, when we take a gap year, we feel like the kind of vision we were sitting for, the kind of aim we are sitting for, if we don't achieve that, then you are nowhere. So in that gap year, in that 2020, I graduated in, and then 2021 was the year when I full time, and that is where I did take a foundation course because I felt like I didn't feel like the need of coaching, but I felt like somewhere I lacked the capability to sit like I had that before for long hours to study. So I didn't go for any physical, did an online coaching. I never went for any physical classes, and that helped me in cultivating a habit of sitting for long hours, studying and concentrating. But that year, I remember I studied a lot, and I had also cut off my relations with a lot of my friends, and like the kind of social circle you have when you are in college, and then when you are completely locked inside a matchbox of a room. So that transition is very disheartening, and it is also it requires a lot of mettle. It requires a lot of courage to go through that every single day, believing in yourself, believing believing in the idea that you might succeed, might not succeed, but what you're doing, what you're sitting for is worth it, and therefore you should go. So that happened, and then in my third attempt, when I worked really hard and I thought I would be able to make it, I did not. And that was, I think, one of the most heartbreaking experience which I had ever had. That you work hard and you know that you are capable of clearing this exam or achieving it, and you know you would be a good. Because at the end of the day, to anybody else, what kind of professional you would be. At the end of the day, you should be contented with the vision that you are fighting for. I knew that I would be able to, and somewhere or the other, I believed in myself that I would be able to. But that year I felt like that there are bigger powers that you possibly cannot fight against, and if that is what is meant to be, then it should be that way. You cannot change a lot of things. And then after that, after a large period of lull, and somehow I think even there were periods when I felt depressed. So I knew that even though there were a lot of people who were trying to help me out, a couple of my friends who always stick together, and they would always ask me how you're doing, even though when I was not able to make myself or give them time. And my parents were always there, my brother was always there. But still, I felt like at the end of the day, when you are feeling difficult to help your own self, you have to take that risk. So I reached out to Sanjeevani, I think in 2021, and they really helped me for a couple of sessions only I attended, and that really helped the life into perspective that at the end of the day, what was the vision of a young child that you, as a young child, you had? The vision was probably not to be a civil servant, but to be a person who could help in any way possible to help the society and to help disadvantaged sections of the society. And when I started having that bigger vision, and when I started coming out of the narrowness that I had shut myself in, I started realizing that maybe this is not the way that will work. There are always other ways. And there is no shame in admitting that you have failed so many times. You worked hard for it, and it didn't work out. You take a step back and will open up new avenues of life. So then after that, I started applying to multiple places in private industry. And then, I don't know how many of you have tried private industry, but then again, that is a whole different ball game where you constantly are reaching out to people, you are making a LinkedIn profile, and you're trying to sell yourself or your CV that you are capable of doing this, doing that, and then you get no response. And till then you are feeling like, okay, you will constantly reach out to cold email, cold call other people, and start networking. But when I was doing that, I felt like at least it's a start to somewhere, and if it is a start to somewhere, it will end somewhere. So it's always good to be going than to remain static and not be anywhere. So that happened, and then I started applying to different places, but luckily or unluckily, I didn't get through any. So then I did get a lot of replies from, let's say, JPAL and I think PM Gati Shakti project and different even fellowships. But then I don't know how, but then I would not make it to the final stage. So there would always be hope, and then again there'll be hopeless. But then again there'll be hope, and then again there'll be hope. So then I think in March, in February, I received a LinkedIn message from a company called Gartner. It's in Gurgaon. I think it's an American company. And somebody from the HR team reached out to me saying that we have seen your CV and we'd like to hire you. So you call us back or you share your mail ID, share your SOP with us. And after seeing so many failures, I was like, this is not going to be true, and nothing is going to work out. But I was fine with myself, and I was like, I'll constantly keep on trying. But I think it's a fake one, and nobody would reach out to me now because I have no networking for a company like that. I have no MBA or that kind of experience also. And then I think after a month, the lady again messaged me, and I was like, nothing is working out. Let me just try replying back to her and see if this works out. And then I gave her my mail ID and all of that, and then I started into that process of corporate. And then again, there were different interview stages, and I tried skilling myself for the kind of job I was being hired for there. And there I realized I started clearing from one stage to the second stage to third and fourth, and I was hired with Gartner. And at that time, I felt like, okay, I possibly am not a total fool, and I got something. It is not the thing that I had planned that I would get, but at least it's a role that would help me learn, and it's a role from where I can get to a starting line, a new phase of life. It will help me in becoming financially independent, and possibly in future I can grow a sector which would align with my vision of what I wanted to do. But at least it was a start to somewhere. So then that happened, and at the same time, I remember while I was appearing for these multiple interviews with Gartner, I was also preparing for prelims because even though a lot of people saw my 3 attempts, but I saw that I worked only hard for one, and at the back of my mind, I turned very silent, and I silently started preparing. And also, so the phase during this phase was that I'm placed with Gartner. I'll start my work. But the thing at the back was that I was preparing for my prelims silently. And while I was following that routine, I think constantly engaged with a lot of work, and then I was not able to take care of my health a lot. And I remember before prelims, I started limping because of lack of vitamins, and I did not take proper care of my health. But then I was like, that is something I should take care of, but at the same time, it should not stop me from preparing for my exams. So I did prepare. I appeared for my prelims, but it was because of this job that I had in my hand that I was very in a state of comfort when I was giving the exam. Prelims happened, and I did calculate my marks, and I had some hope that I would clear. But since the baggage of 3-time failures was there with me, I thought I better not hope for it, because when you hope for it, then again things would not turn out, and then the baggage of expectations, it blows out really hard on your head. So I started my job after, and within 15 days of my job, when the prelims result came out, I was shocked. I was like, oh my god, how did I clear? And I was also very happy and very nervous that I had lost some time and I had cleared prelims, and I just felt like I had cleared the exam. And that prelims result, I think I was so happy when I saw that. It just made me feel like I had cleared the exam because I was comfortable with writing long answers, and I was like, I can do names and I can also, but this was the hardest stage, and I had cleared it. So within 15 days I gave my exam, and that was also a hard decision to take. That would again bring back to square one, where if I clear means and I sit for the interview, if I don't, then I have to start it. Am I audible?
There is some lag. Pratibha, there is some lag from your end, I guess. Pratibha, can you hear us? Can the other participants hear? Khushi, can you hear me? Let me ask Pratibha to log in again. Yes, Pratibha, there was a lag at your end.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
It's
the
okay.
internet connection went unstable. Yes, so after my prelims, I gave my resignation for my job, and then I started preparing for mains. And when I started preparing for mains, I ensured that I prepared it in such a way, thinking that this is the only mains I'm going to give. Because cracking prelims itself was so difficult for me that I thought. And then I tried covering all different aspects, and I had prepared for mains during my previous years a lot, and for my optional as well. So I did answer writing practice as well in those 2.5, 3 months, and I revised. And the most important thing was I was very calm during the phase of preparation and during the phase of appearing for the exams as well. And that helped me in being in the moment and addressing the need of the questions during the exam. And then after that, I was hoping that I would clear the main, so I started preparing for the interview. But at the same time, I also started applying for different jobs because I didn't want to come back to square one. And I also had an experience of how you could approach the world outside, and if this doesn't work out, then how you could find a different source of employment for yourself. But then the mains results came, and then the interview stage happened, and then in the interview stage also, since I had been into a lot of years of where I was cut from a different social interaction, so I had to develop that habit of formal communication. And I think again my friends helped me in that, and my professors helped me in that, especially at St. Stephen. And then mock interviews really helped me in that. There were mock interviews where I think a couple of mock interviews went so bad, where I remember some of the panelists had to close down their files and almost, they were like, okay, we're done for the day. But there also, after that, after going through that experience and then rising up again and then going for mock interviews where the panels suggested to me that, we were really amazed by your personality, and I think you would surely, they said that we think that you would surely find your name in the list and you would surely make a good civil servant. So again, all these stages were filled with different ups and downs, and when the personality test happened, I told myself that you have to be completely faithful to different sets of parameters for yourself during personality test, which is that you have to be truthful, your attitude has to be honest, you have to have good listening capability, and you should have a vision where you
Hello.
are wanting.
दूसरे वाले पीछे वाले गेट से भेजना, मेन वाले जो पीछे वाला गेट है ना, बड़ा वाला पार्क वाला, उसको बोलना वहाँ से।
So these were different set of parameters I told myself that I should adhere by them and not rate my personality test on the parameters of how many questions you are answering, but how you are approaching to answer them. And I was very blessed enough to get a panel which helped me feeling very comfortable during the personality test as well. And that happened, and then after that it was only waiting for the results, and again getting back to the process of looking for different sources of employment and preparing for prelims. But then I was lucky enough to see my name in the list and was very happy about it as well. You were the first one to tell me that, but you have cleared the exam. So I was like, oh, that's amazing, as if somebody else had cleared. But then I was very happy to see that at the end of the day, no matter how many hardships you are going through, if you are truthful towards your hard work, if you are truthful towards your vision, and then something or the else surely will work out, and that thing which will work out for you will truly be beautiful, and you will feel happy about it. There is a quote which I remember I constantly reminded myself of by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, which said that दिल ना उम्मीद तो नहीं, नाकाम ही तो है, लंबी है गम की शाम मगर शाम ही तो है. So I constantly told myself this quote that you have to be mindful of not giving up at any stage, no matter what happens. You have to constantly work hard, and something or the else will surely work out. And that is how I think it happened, and I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you for sharing this journey. Now, just a second. So, from with the discussion that we've had, I think I've taken some pointers on which I would like to ponder upon. One is that you've pointed out that after a point of time that you should have a backup option available with you. Because otherwise you'll feel lost if there's no backup option. What the insurance plan? So what is the insurance that you have in your hand? That is something that you've talked about. The other thing that I want to ask you is how much of this. I personally believe that this is more of an emotional test, this examination, more than an academic test. Uh, how much of this is true, and how much of this is true with respect to the discipline required? The key aspects, like you joined a coaching for a disciplined program. So the role of discipline and how much of this exam is an emotional exam and not an academic exam. I want you to spend a couple of minutes on that. And apart from the health aspect that you had pointed out, that taking care of health is equally important during this particular examination. If you can ponder on these three topics.
Yes. So I think that once you give a substantial amount of your time to in preparing for this exam, it's important that you should have a backup plan and you should constantly be upskilling yourself at the same time. I remember when I was doing my masters and even when I started preparing for the exam, I was constantly also engaging with different sets of activities. I was interning with NHRC, with Central Vigilance Commission, with the Delhi government. They were short-term internships, but they were good internships which helped me learn about the government. So they were aligned with the vision that I was trying to attain. Apart from that, when I started applying for different jobs outside, I realized that I should have some different sets of experiences, whether it was in the policy making or it was somewhere else. So I was constantly looking for opportunities with Niti Aayog or different fellowships with the state governments. So I think it is, and I also, I think, interned with Blood Connect when I was in my college, and Impact Consulting when I started thinking that consulting could be an area where I could possibly explore a career in. So I think when you have a backup plan in mind, it helps you to push through, and it also helps you in diverting your mind. Because when you're constantly working towards one thing and that thing is not paying off, you are intended to think negatively about yourself and not about the different sets of circumstances which is affecting, let's say, the results or the probability of the results. So therefore, backup plan is not a consolation for anyone. Backup plan is only telling you that if this doesn't work out, you're open for different sets of opportunities. If one door is not opening and you're constantly banging at that door, it's okay to go to look for other opportunities and to look for other doors, where you can possibly go ahead. So at the end of the day, you should not restrict yourself from moving ahead. And I think for people who think that they can give a lot of years to the exam, prepare for it, and make it through, even that is right. Because at the end of the day, you have to realize what works out for you and what is important for you. Nobody's journey should become your journey, but therefore I think it depends on you what you think is right for yourself. For example, if you're constantly working for preparing the exam and you still have that fire in you where you are not depressed by appearing for multiple exams and you feel like you can make it through, then you should sit for and you should give ample amount of time. But when you start thinking that this thing is not working out, nothing will work out, or when you start getting into that zone of black hole of emotions, then I think one should always try to explore different opportunities which will work out for them. And since we are at a stage where there are so many a plethora of opportunities if you try to explore, which can help you in probably help you in bringing the best out of you. So I think one should not be fearful of exploring new opportunities. Only the precondition is you should be ready for that. If you think you are not, you should be decisive enough to tell yourself what is right for you. And addressing the second question, which is how much of this exam is an emotional versus academic. I think it is a mix of two, but then it depends a lot emotionally intelligent you are. How because if you are, then academics would fall. And if you are not, no matter how brilliant you are, if you are not emotionally intelligent of seeing through your failures or making improvements or seeing where you are lagging, then academics will not fructify. So therefore, I think this exam tests you on different parameters. And at the end of the day, when we talk about discipline versus motivation, because that also we can, I think, put these binaries in these two. Motivation, if you see as emotion, could help you to sit for one day and start reading, let's say at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., sit for 16 hours in a day. But then it's discipline which will take you from, let's say, January to the end of December with the same schedule, with a different schedule. And so therefore discipline is very important. A sprinkle of motivation, of course, will help you to get through the exam, but discipline is something which forms the bedrock. And then when we talk about health, it is very important for you, no matter whether you're sitting for this exam or not, or no matter what stage of exam you are in. Health is very important, and it is very sad that we realize the importance of it only when we start facing issues with our health. So some form of basic exercises or some form of association with nature also, because if you are living in different parts of the city where it is possible, it's sad that it's not possible, let's say, in a city like Delhi as much. But some form of discipline in having a good health is absolutely necessary. Whether it is in form of basic exercises, yoga postures, or cycling, or going for, let's say, a small walk itself on a daily basis. It just helps you to put yourself in a better mood and in a better state of affairs where you feel like you are in charge of your body and your mind. I remember when I used to go for running when I was living in Cantonment, and there also I used to motivate myself by saying that, oh, your body is giving up, but you move one step forward. So that kind of motivation you can carry.
Now, I want to bring this to the audience, that the way that Pratibha has answered this particular set of questions is the way that you answer your mains answers as well. That there were 4 questions asked, and each particular question was being answered by her. So this is a template of answering mains questions as well as interview questions, that you listen to the question and then do justice to each particular part. Now leading to the next set of questions, that how does one prepare? So after prelims, how does one prepare for mains? So that, see, mains, from what I see, is prelims has become very dicey, very stochastic. I mean, last 2-3 years, your case this year, another student that I've had, a brilliant student who gave the interview on 16th of May, and then expecting her to clear the exam on 28th. So prelims has become very stochastic. It's become very, I would say, probabilistic. So how does one go about preparing mains? Can you prepare mains between the prelims and the mains, or do you need to prepare for that beforehand and then just polish your subject during this time frame between prelims and mains?
I think that mains is something which does require a substantial amount of your time during preparation. If you have done your mains preparation well, preparing for your prelims becomes more clearer, and you do get confidence that you would sit for prelims, and if you make prelims, mains will be something that you would at least be a comfortable position to clear. If you think that you will only prepare for prelims and start preparing for mains after your prelims examination, one must remember that you have a very short period of time in your hand, and that at that point in time, a lot of students, candidates who sit for the exam, use that time honing their skills of answer writing, because you have to write 6 hours of examination, and you should have that kind of speed, you should have that kind of content, you should have that kind of power of mind where you are able to recollect.
Yes.
So therefore, in my opinion, preparing for the examination, then you should focus on preparing for your mains, and wholesomely. I think when you approach you should approach your preparation for mains paper by paper. So and you should cover each part of the syllabus which is mentioned in the syllabus itself, and not by, let's say, some coaching institute's reading material. You should have the syllabus, in your mind, in front of your eyes, and you should constantly be telling yourself that, okay, whether do you have the content for each of the word which is mentioned in the syllabus for each of the papers. Because when you prepare for the GS papers, let's say paper-wise, then you get this sense of completeness. When you get that sense of completeness, I think you would get a sense of confidence as well. Therefore, it's important to prepare for it beforehand, and when you have a 2.5-3 months time, it's better to revise and get into answering.
So how did you prepare for your answer writing? What was your methodology, and in general, what was your strategy for? Did you see the PYQs, or did you write a test series? So what was, and especially for respect to optional, because a lot of the audience has, as PSIR has become one of the most favorite or a model value, I would say, for if you compare other optionals. So how did you go about your optional prep, as well as how did you go about your answer writing prep, which helped you eventually clear mains?
So I think for the mains, what helps you in clearing the mains is that the kind of notes you have should be very crisp and clear. It shouldn't happen that you have cleared prelims and then you are searching from where you have to make for some parts. And even if that happens, you should at that point in time take the responsibility and make very crisp and short notes, even in that short period of time. That is also doable. So when it comes to mains preparation, I think it's important that for answer writing, it could be that, for example, when you're covering each part of your GS papers or PSIR, then once you complete, let's say, a part of your syllabus, you approach answer writing for that. And it's okay to refer back to some websites, because at that time when your content is not there, it's always good to start writing answers once you have covered some portion of your syllabus. Start answer writing addressing those part of the syllabus only. For example, if you cover geography, then you are answering questions related to geography from the past year to see that your mains preparation is going in the right direction. Therefore, I would suggest that you should not leave answer writing to a time where that you clear prelims only, then you will start answering. Then, when it comes to preparing for the mains, I think there is one part where you must have clarity with respect to the GS papers and your optionals. Second is that you should cover issues. So that is the difference when it comes to how you're preparing for prelims versus how you're preparing for mains. You should be able to highlight what kinds of issues are probable to be asked in the questions with respect to GS and even your PSI or different options. So therefore, you should have crisp either one page or half a page notes about the issues that you're constantly seeing. And so that's how you should prepare your current affairs. And third, of course, is the answer writing. I initially started with my answer writing by joining some free initiatives on these websites. For example, on Browse, there's a weekly answer writing. On the portal, you do that. I think IAS, Baba, Insights, IAS also do come up with these initiatives. So, like at your own pace, you can write answers and see how you're doing when it comes to answer writing. They also, I think, evaluate your answers and then they give you feedback. So these are free initiatives. Then I did answer writing with a few of my friends who were also sitting for the exam. But that was before, when I was not even clearing the prelims. After clearing prelims, I joined the main 75 free initiative by Insights IAS, and I took the help of one of my friends, and daily we used to write answers without a day being missed. We practiced answer writing for all the 75 days for that initiative. Then I took mock papers as well. Initially, I appeared for sectional tests because that helped me in revising. So when I was, let's say, revising the history part, the world history, the Indian history, so I would appear for only the sectional tests. And then after appearing for a substantial number of these sectional mock tests, I would appear for the full length test. And initially, I was writing these answers in a very long duration of time, ranging from 18 to a very shameful of 22 minutes as well. But then I practiced, and then I was able to come back to 6 minutes, 7 minutes while writing a 10 mark question. I was able to do that. And after that, while I was writing the answer, I made a point to ensure that I was addressing only the need of the question. Because in a 10 mark, you cannot. You have to know what the question is asking. The examiner does not want to know what knowledge base you have, but wants to know whether you can answer the kind of question that is asked. So therefore, that is something that you should always keep in your mind, address the need of the question. And with respect to PSIR, I think I studied very well in my graduation, the political science, and I prepared notes for that. I did not take any project for my optional, But I did prepare handwritten notes for paper 1 part A and part B of paper 2. And for the other papers, I had my own notes from graduation and I revised them, and I also appeared for mock tests, full length tests for them. I did not appear for sections. And I revised previous year questions thoroughly with their answers, because that helps you in understanding what kinds of questions are asked. Because at the end of the day, you have to remind yourself that the coaching institutes can help you in giving a practice, but the PYQs help you in actually understanding what kind of questions are asked in the game.
Great. And then moving on to a couple of tricky topics, which is ethics and essay, because these are, I would say, the areas where marks have varied. So I know aspirants who have cleared scoring 70 marks in essays and someone scoring 140 marks in essay, and that making a difference from say rank 400 to say rank 20. So these are areas where you have huge variance of marks. Essay and ethics. How does one go about preparing these papers? Especially because of the fact that you scored well in both of these.
I think I did score well in essay, but I didn't score well in my essay, and I'm not happy about it. But I don't know what to do about it. But with respect to ethics and essay, I think I might sound too poetic, but then you have to really love to score well in these things. And you don't, since with respect to ethics and essays, the syllabus can be stretched to any levels when it comes to these exams, and there is a inclination towards bending, towards the philosophical side. So I think for these two papers, I ensured that I had value addition material with me. So in that, I prepared notes for quotations. I love reading books, so I prepared short summaries of these books and also of the names of the authors. And for the others, the books that I didn't read, I kind of good books I have in them and prepared a summary of it. And then I think current affairs was also one of the prelims pointers which was there, that the notes that I had made for prelims, the good examples that I was seeing, the documentaries that I saw, especially on Rajsabha TV. So I used to note them down as well in my value addition material, because once you see them, then you don't remember what you saw. When you note them down, at least in one pointer or two pointers, you would have a memory and how it made you feel. And then I think reading the toppers, it gives you a direction of how you should approach these things. And then you would start by writing essays, probably as one of the worst essays that you would also not want to read. But then that first essay that you will take courage to write will take you towards possibly writing one of the best. So therefore practice is very important, and practice without improvement would not take you anywhere. So once you are practicing, it's important to realize where you are making mistakes and how you can improve, or probably see how you could add value to your ethics answer. And that is how I think when you sit next, you should keep all those points in mind, and then when you're sitting for the next writing, you should try to take those points in. And I think poems, movies, find something to learn, because these two are the papers where you express yourself the best. So, and where even the examiner, I hope, is looking for engagement. And it's not a paper where you are constantly answering the questions that is asked. So there's a lot of scope and freedom. So I think you should take advantage of that. And then
I think I would say it's also gives you an insight. The examiner gets an insight into your personality. These particular papers, because there's no set answer. There's no hard and fast answer. So these are I mean the topics that I had to discuss. If there are any questions, folks, you can put them on the chat box. We'll close in next 5 minutes. I have a class in the morning at 5 a.m. so I also need to pack up quickly. So any questions? Anyone has a question, please put it on the chat box, and otherwise we'll close down.
think Q&A, there are two questions.
Yes, one is optional. I think you've decided optional on the basis of your background. Improving speech. Please, you can answer how to improve speech. I don't know what the question is.
I think have a good reading ability if you possibly can, because that helps you in giving a good vocabulary. You can practice. For example, I'll just give you an example. For example, you listen to a podcast to summarize. I think that could be one of the ways you could improve. Speech can be improved only by communication. The best way to improve speech is by communication. So if you could find a good while communicating, that is also.
I think to add to that is a lot of students have only fall back to reading these monthly compendiums. That's, I think, what a problem that I've seen is that students have just forgotten how to read newspapers, and they're just relying on these compendiums, and that kind of loses touch from the originality of the article. So it's I mean relying too much on others, although that might help in revision, but again that you lose touch of reading. I mean, that's one problem that I've seen with students. Then there's another question, which is how study material for optional. I think you've put that on your blog as well. So we will put your blog's link on in the description, because that will be a big answer. Then there's a question I would like to ask you: some of the mistakes that you did while preparing for CSE.
When I started, I didn't have a lot of guidance, and I was also on my own. I believe that I only relied myself when it came to preparing notes. Analysis and all that comes in you. I remember for the first year when I started preparing, because I was scared of how would I make it. So I had, I think, 5-6 books, and also these analysis that I would see on YouTube, and it would take 2-3 hours of every day, and then I was not able to cover my mains, that is the GS papers and my optional papers. So that was, I think, one of the mistakes. That is the places just because being fearful that you would lose out this or lose out that. Second, I believe for my PSIR, initially I did not prepare notes because I over-relied on my graduation. Later on I started. And I think one of the other mistakes I did was that I was too scared of taking risks when it came to taking a gap year, or also finding out new opportunities. And I don't know whether it is right or wrong, but then that somehow overshadows your preparation. So it depends on what works out for you.
Then there's another question. We'll take 2-3 more questions. What do you think the accuracy of evaluation or in test series? Do you think that's a fair assessment that they make in the market?
I think for some, at least when you are starting off, and then the kind of yes, initially it does help you in providing some guidance, because when you are the people who are checking have also probably checked a lot of answers. They know what other students are writing. But at the end of the day, when you, let's say, cover a substantial portion of your syllabus, and you know that you have written a good answer, and you don't get, let's say, a similar, then I think one shouldn't be discouraged with that. At the end of the day, you should know whether you have addressed the need of the question, but that should happen once you have completed a certain section and you are confident about what you're writing is right enough. Until that, good to take guidance from the right.
Great. Then there's a question: how to maintain mental strength during exam prep? And the same person has also asked: should one prepare in a peer group, or should someone prepare in isolation like a saint?
I think it does come with, and it does. I used to meditate every day, even in the evening. That helps, a good introspection activity. That if you can do on a daily basis, that helps you reflect on your actions and helps you improve your own personality on a daily basis. I think that really helps keep, to strengthen your mind and I think small habits of change also help you in attaining a mental strength. For example, on a daily basis, you're making a to-do list that you have to cover this part of your syllabus on this day. And if you attain these small goals, and that helps you in giving a small motivation, you develop that strength. Whatever decisions you're making, that is right. So that I do. And addressing the second question, which is whether you should prepare within a peer group or in isolation, I think if you have a good peer group, that is a decision that you have to make for yourself. And how it is said, that Sangati ka asar padta hai. So if you are living in the right set of people, so you know that they'll help you to push through, and they'll help you to push through in the right direction. So peer group really matters. But what kind of peer group are you living in? It doesn't matter that they should be people who are preparing for the civil service. Even if there are people who don't understand a bit about CSE, but they are there to listen to you whenever you want to approach them, then that itself is. And then I think for study, of course, if you can have a good peer group that helps you learning from each other. And at the end of the day, I think isolation or solitude, even if you're living in a peer group, loneliness would never leave you if you don't leave that behind. So therefore, I think you should be very comfortable with your own personality or with your own self, because at the end of the day, when you're sitting in the examination, you are the one who's writing.
So I think the answer that you gave, the initial answer, is basically, I would say, the selling point of D3, which is which is basically meditation, journaling, and then newspapers. So, anyways, so I think we'll wrap up the discussion here, and I would really like to thank you for this enriching session that we've had, and hopefully hope for you that you'll be able to again after joining back, and then maybe in another year or so improve this rank and get into the coveted IAS. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you best, and I hope to see you in the foundation course now during the economics module. So till then, thank you very much, and keep guiding all the students. I'll post your blog on our website as well, and on the in the comment section of this particular. Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
I'd just like to point out that all the people whose questions I was not able to address, they can reach out to me on WhatsApp. Thank you so much for being patient.
Okay.
And listen.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.